It's so great to have you on the show. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I'm honored.
No, it's fantastic. I can't wait for everyone to hear about what you're doing because it's pretty exciting. So, why don't we start off with a little introduction? Why don't you tell everyone who you are and what you do?
Yeah, so I am Trudiann Branker. I am a master blender for Monkey rum. And in being the master blender, I really create all of the Monkey liquids and all of the research and development activities that happen at Monkey. I coordinate.
That's so exciting. Now, on the podcast, I always love to go right back to the beginning, to people's beginnings to see how they got where they did. So if you could tell me a little bit about, where you grew up, from your accent, I can tell you're Barbadian. Well, just a little bit about that, and I'll sprinkle some questions in along the way.
No. So yes, definitely Barbadian. Very proud of that fact. Never tried to hide the accent. I don't think I could if I wanted to. But no, I was born in Barbados. I would have went to school here my entire child life. However, I'm coming on to 18 when it was time to go to university. I did leave Barbados and I went to university at Howard in Washington,
Oh,
D.C.
yeah.
And, it was my first time going to the U.S. when I went to Howard. So, definitely a new world there. However, it was a real beginning with regards to, I would say, my first love for Monkey would have started then, leaving the island, having to take a gift to persons, and not knowing I did reach for Monkey, not ever thinking that this is where I would sit one day. But it's a full circle moment for me. But yeah, no, I started all through my school life. I was very attracted to the sciences, biology, chemistry, physics, and I really continued that like journey throughout. In tertiary education at university, same steady path, biology, chemistry. Never once connecting the dots again that this is where it would lead, but unknowingly setting the stage or, providing myself with that base that would be used later. It's really funny. People always say, when you're in a class, you'll never use that in real life. But then one day, you realize your career is based in a laboratory with the same look and feel that you had then, and it's, that to me, that's sometimes one of the best things to see that there's this real life application that happens for all of those studies that I had. But it's yeah, after I finished university, I returned home to Barbados because it was really important for me at that point to contribute to Barbados and to bring what I had learned externally back home. I started my career at at local brewery.
Wait,
There
wait,
I
hold
learned.
on, hold on. I have so many things to ask in between there. Before you get to the brewery, now, when you went to study science at Howard,
Yes,
did you think have a long-term goal, like I want to be a doctor or scientist or anything like that, or you just didn't really know? You just wanted
I
to study
did.
science?
I did. I was still very much gonna, follow the path my parents had, envisioned for me. I was going to be a doctor. That
Oh, no
was
way,
the
I
plan.
guessed.
That was the plan.
That was the plan.
That was the plan. It really was at that time. When I left, I actually took a gap year before I was supposed to go back to med school, funny enough. And that's when we kind of land at the brewery, but we're not there yet. We're not
We're
there
not there
yet.
yet. Now, and also, of course, when you got to the U.S., the drinking age is 21.
Hmm.
So had rum been, I guess this is such a silly question to ask someone who's from the islands, but was rum, was it around? Was it a big part of your life? As in, I guess it's always around, right? If you live in a
You know,
country like
it's
Barbados.
yeah, it's always around, but different facets of it become around, if that's it. So as you're growing up, because the island is full of sugarcane, and you know of that
Mhm.
relationship between sugarcane and rum. You are always knowledgeable of how rum is made. Um, when you leave when like at 18 in Barbados, at 18 is the legal drinking age or the legal consumption age. But it's not that at 18, all of a sudden, there's this awakening that
Right.
happens with regards to to it. It is that, like I said, it's more about the process and that behind the scenes that happens. because you grew up in an island where, like I said, there's sugarcane everywhere. I would say for me, it was definitely as I got older, it was more of a gift to people. It was a
Uh,
representation of Barbados
right.
for me. It was always something I would take back for like a professor or somebody of,
Right.
a piece of Barbados. That is what it represented to me then.
Of course.
As I got older and, you would, socially you would go out. Of course, it would be the choice that I would make because, like, again, it really always resonates for me as being a very Barbadian brand. And that to me, I think was more how I saw it and how it evolved. Um, Many years later, when the opportunity presents itself to be a member of the Mungay family, of course,
Of course.
in my mind, it's the opportunity, of a lifetime to really become, a member of the Mungay family and represent a brand. In my mind, is so Barbadian, but we're not there yet either.
We're not
We're
there.
still
All
not
right.
there yet.
So you go back
Yes.
and your first job is, you said, in a brewery.
So I come back to Barbados
Uh-huh.
and, as usual, you're taking a year off, but you've still got to do something. You've still got to do something. And yeah, I do. I started working at the local brewery and I think that's really everything changed where manufacturing became a part of or a career path that I fell in love with. The production, the process to go through from raw material the science involved where yeast transforms these sugars into alcohol, like it all resonated so naturally. And I was enthusiastic to go every day to study more, to become part of this. And I think after maybe like a week after joining the brewery, I was at that point where it was like, this is it. Like, I think this is the career path for me. I still didn't think about Mount Gay yet.
Right.
We weren't even thinking about it at that point. But, as I spent a few more years and I moved from being the brewer to supply chain to quality assurance, so really understanding all the different facets of the process, it's where I was able to make choices to focus on things like the taste and the organoleptics, the nose, the taste, how we develop them, what happens at each stage. And I think right there was the turning point where, it became like one day, this was the direction that pointed me towards Mogi right then.
Uh-huh. And I love, I would hate to be a fly on the wall in the conversation of mom, dad, I'm not going to be a doctor. I'm going to work at the brewery.
Yeah,
I'm
no,
sure that it's fine, but
it always, it was, I would say this, it was definitely not the easiest conversation I've ever had with them. However, I think it became significantly better when I became the master blender at Mogi when they were like, yeah, of course, we love this.
listen, I totally understand. My dad was like, "Are you sure you don't want to be a lawyer?" I was like, "Yeah, Dad, I'm
Yeah,
sure."
yeah, exactly.
So I totally understand. So, tell me about the opportunity to join Mount Gay from was it from the brewery to Mount Gay?
Yeah. So,
What pulled
um,
you there?
so in 2014, Remy Control was able to acquire the physical distillery. Prior to that, they had owned the brand, the bottling facility, and all the aging um,
Okay.
facilities, but not the distillery itself. And that was really where the opportunity presented itself because, having spent a few years at the brewery, maybe approximately 8 or so, really my focus was fermentation as well as organoleptics associated with fermentation specifically. And it was just a great opportunity to be able to come to bring that specialty to the Monk 18 and really help them with regards to starting up this new distillation process and kind of molding it into what Monkey needed it to be. And that's how we started. So I would have come in as the quality assurance manager here at Monkey when we took on a brand new process, distillation. And, we'll get further into all the other processes we've taken on over the years. But it was really the opportunity to have that developed and, reconnect what had been done in the past with, where we needed to go in the future to make sure that the malt gave liquid would always be at the quality that, everyone knows and loves.
Oh boy, there's so much in there. Maybe we go to, why don't you tell people a little bit about the history of Mount Gay so we can kind of go backward to go forward, you know?
Look at it. So Mount Gay is 321 years old. So for
Which
the
is
last
crazy.
300 plus
Uh-huh.
centuries, Mount Gay is operated actually right here where I sit doing this interview in St. Lucie, the most northern parish of the island. And it's always been located in this specific spot, and what has happened over the years is, as it has changed hands, it has changed owners. One thing that has stayed the same is where it is, and,
Yeah.
and how they do what they do.
Mhm.
So throughout the years is very much been the passing down of very specific traditions, the art of distillation, blending, coming in the latter part of Mogi's history. But what a lot of people don't necessarily know is, even though certain aspects of the brand may not have all been owned by the same person, it was still one um, cohesive function where the distillery made liquids, which would then come to aging, which would go to the bottling facility. And
Mhm.
that's really how it's always been. In 2014, when I joined, Remy Cointreau was given the opportunity to purchase the distillery, to really bring the entire process in under one ownership. And that's really what happened there. And it didn't call for any physical movement of the
Right.
facility. It actually, with the significance of it was very small. I think a fence was removed, like a literal physical fence. But what happened is that, you were able to have one team that would be able to go from start all the way distillation, acquirement of raw materials, molasses, all the way to bottling and through to distribution throughout the world. And that's really what happened in 2014 when I joined. Shortly after that, in 2015, we added something a little more to it, but we'll get to that a little later. And
Yes, we'll get to
that's
that in a sec. So just to clarify for people who might be slightly confused, so did that change when everything came under one? Did that change the liquid at all, or was the taste still the same? Everything that you bought, if you bought a Mount Gay bottle in 2013 and then bought one in 2014, had that changed at all?
so no, nothing changed
Nothing
because
changed.
what was already part of the Remy Root was all of the age stock. So all of the maturation, all of the aging, all of the blending,
Mhm.
that was already happening. My predecessor, Alan Smith, he had been taking care of that, and before him, Jerry Edwards, for decades. So, and they were the ones who worked very closely with distillation, to be able to keep the consistency that was needed for Mount. So, it was more paperwork
Mhm.
than anything else. But these stalwarts in the industry, that they were the gatekeepers of Montgay's liquid quality. And that is definitely one of the things that is handed over from master blender to master blender. So,
Now, well, as a new master blender, obviously you want to make your own stamp on things. So, had what kind of things were you thinking of doing, and then what came to fruition?
so I'll say, as the new master blender, I never once thought about the change. You always, what is first in your mind is the consistency.
Okay.
This will be the same Eclipse, the same Black Barrel, the same EXO that everybody knows. They
Of
will not
course.
even be able to tell that there's been a difference. But that's really not what happens actually. But when I became master blender, I was given a very unique opportunity at that
Uh-huh.
point because we were at a stage where we really needed to relook at our entire portfolio and what we were offering. And we did do some changes to the core products at that point. And, we were, each individual product had its own way in which we went about it. I will say specifically for Eclipse had little to no change. Eclipse had a label change.
Uh-huh.
And that was it. But what was clearly demonstrated was the quantum of barrels and the type of barrels. So for me, it was very important to have transparency, really explaining to each person, client what is in the bottle, the type of barrels we use and things of that such.
Uh-huh.
Um, EXO, the third master blender to make it, I think it definitely, I think the one that I had the most angst and I was super nervous about. But once again, it was, I was able to add a third barrel type to EXO to really enhance what was already there, not change, the liquid, but really more highlight the specifics that make EXO EXO. And for me, that was a great opportunity. But I think what surpassed all of those was the creation of the Master Blender collection.
Mhm.
We never could have anticipated the following, how well that product would have been accepted by everybody. Um, I think I'm on my eighth version, eighth release this year now. And then, like I said, the one that I think I speak about the most now is single estate,
Uh,
and being able to bring not only an addition to the core portfolio that was 100% conceptualized by me, but also having it be such a Barbadian offering and such a Mount Gay offering to add to that core range, 100% made in Barbados with sugarcane that I can walk you across the street to the estate. And for me to bring something so transparent, so nuanced for the world of rum, especially molasses-based rum houses, has been it's been quite an honor to be able to bring it to persons all throughout the world.
well, we were lucky. I was really lucky to meet you at the Connaught when you came over and then got to taste it. And it is behind me for all you watching on YouTube, or not you watching on YouTube. We can't see. You can see the bottle there. We'll talk about the bottle in a sec. But, definitely you have to unpack that because I love the single estate story. And that's really what we're here to talk about anyway. So if you could go really from A to Z of
Mhm.
the beginning of it, what it actually means, what a single estate, how did it get in the bottle, all of that stuff, that would be great.
Yeah, we're gonna do that. But you've heard me. I can do that for like 2 hours.
Not the
We
2 hour
do
version,
a
maybe the
quick
half an
version.
hour version.
Exactly. No, no. Well, single estate really started or really was reborn, I should say, in 2015. So in 2015, Mongay was able to acquire an estate, a sugarcane estate. It's right across the street from the distillery, and in acquiring this, we were, for the very first time in many, many years, be able to complete the entire value chain with regards to soil to sip where rum was concerned. And by doing this, what we were able to do is grow sugarcane, bring Barbadian know-how, Barbadian expertise into helping us grow this sugarcane. So, you've heard me say it before, we became farmers. and very proudly so, because to have that skill set become part of the team is really an asset to the monkey, just the monkey construct in total. But single estate specifically is a rum made from 100% Mount Gay molasses, which has been grown at the estate. And in rum, that is such a rarity that you are able to connect your entire traceability specifically to where the cane was grown, what cultivars were grown, which plots were harvested, what was the entire year's worth of of process in terms of, like rainfall and all these other metrics, and to be able to have all of that information, to be able to have access to the sugarcane from this specific place, which is then converted into molasses, still here on site and now here at Mount. Because I can walk you from the estate to the mill, to fermentation, to distillation and aging. It really is a very nuanced way to think about rum, especially, like I said, molasses-based rum. And that is effectively what single estate is. Single estate is 100% Mount Gay molasses, which has been fermented, distilled in our pot stills, and aged here at Mount Gay, and then bottled and released. We've done 2 releases thus far. But what makes these releases specifically unique is the transparency that goes behind each and every one of them. So when you are ready to, experience what single estate is, you not only have a beautiful liquid, which is a given,
Yeah.
but you're also able to walk the walk that we walked over the 5 years before this rum became liquid and started as cane. So you're able to understand what the conditions were, how much cane was harvested, how much molasses was made, what the profile was as we went through every step. And for me, I think that that's the piece that makes me the happiest about single estate, being able to take everybody on that journey with me as you go from planting all the way to liquid creation. And that is really embodies what single estate is, a wholly non-gay product.
So when you acquired this land with the sugarcane on it, um, which must have been so exciting for a scientist too, to be like, oh, I can play with this. Uh, did you use the sugarcane that was already there? Were you already? Sorry, I'm going to bombard you with a billion
No.
questions right now. Um, was the soil the way you wanted it to be? Did you have to change things? Are you growing some sugarcane like this, and then like A is sugarcane, and then there's a B sugarcane to play with it? I mean, how much was already there, and how much did you kind of play with, or are you playing with, should I say?
Yeah, no, these are great questions. So first, yes, there was already sugarcane there. Because it wasn't a fallow estate. There was sugarcane growing.
Uh-huh.
Mm, So we did the very first harvest we would have done in 2015 was from sugarcane that was already
Uh-huh.
on the estate itself. In the years, in the future years, definitely you would see change. So what we do is we do regenerative agriculture. So it is really important to us to preserve the soil that exists at the estate because you want to be sure that not necessarily in my tenure, but the next master blender and the master blender still has a healthy estate and is able to reap and to harvest sugar cane from that estate. So that was one of the major changes that we made, just converting to this very different style of agriculture because it's really not the traditional way in which sugar cane would be cultivated or would be grown in Barbados. But once again, we're setting the example, and we do have our estate is 324 acres, so it is a relatively smaller estate as well.
Uh-huh.
But one of the other things we did is specifically for like plots specifically, like we plant each plot kind of has its own cultivar, and in addition to that, we do have some cultivars that aren't necessarily the best sugar producers as well. We have a nursery, and that nursery is really important to us because it's where we're able to grow newer, or I wouldn't call them newer because it doesn't start with us, but different cultivars for what you would make traditionally find on the estates in Barbados. And it also gives us that opportunity to understand how they grow and how they develop on our estate itself. So
Oh, wait,
these are
just one
some of the
thing. What
changes.
is a cultivar, just in
Oh, sorry.
case
So one
people
of the
don't know?
things that I learned when the estate team and the agronomists that we had here at the time, a sugarcane is a cultivar and not a variety. So this is
Okay.
the terminology that we use.
All right.
I'm always super blown away like when they're able to speak on this and the knowledge that I get because I am the blender at heart. I'm able to assimilate from what they know. So as you can see, and that is one of the benefits too, like I said, of that knowledge and that know-how. It changes how we all speak, how we all view, what we do. And it's really brought a sensitivity with regards to when you move to the very next step, which is like molasses creation. And then when it comes to the distillery, and I'm able to start fermentation, we're really just adding to that knowledge train that we've gotten from each of these steps as we get to the next step. And to me, it was just an amazing experience to be able to do that, like from beginning. And we're not at the end just yet, but
Right.
from beginning or creation to now where we have a liquid that represents all of that.
Now, this may be a silly question, but um, so when you created the molasses and then you created rum from it, a liquid from it, um, did it have the flavor that you thought it would? Or were you planning on a flavor? Did you even know what you were going to get? I mean,
I will
obviously you've worked
say
in
for
sugarcane before. I
the
don't know if it
very
was a
first
huge
time that
surprise,
we
or was it different from what you thought, or the same?
it was definitely different
Uh,
from what we thought. It was very one of those unknowns for us. We the very first time when the molasses it showed up at the distillery, before we went to the process,
uh-huh.
everyone's we're all standing around and we're all like, okay, we're nervous, but we're happy. It's the first time. This time it's going to like a whole different area because it has to be segregated because we're very, very careful to ensure that, when we make single estate, only the single estate inputs are part of the single estate process.
Uh-huh.
And, it first got there and the first thing is it's A molasses. So it's not the C molasses, which is what you traditionally will get from the industry. Because just in case someone who's listening doesn't know, rum, especially molasses-based rum, have been made with what would be, and I guess almost a waste product of the sugar production process.
Right. Okay.
And hence, you get a grade which is called C molasses. However, for single estate, because sugar is not our goal, we use A molasses, which is, you could say, a different quality because, there's less sugar that has been extracted from the process, less processing, all of these things that have happened. So the first thing, we're all standing around, it's arriving. You never believe like 15 people watching molasses off, which never happened. It's so automatic. But it was all of that. It was the build up to, of something new happening, something exciting. I'd say for me the biggest aha moment was during fermentation, where all of a sudden the notes that we were getting were very different from what we get in our traditional monkey. People were passing by and we're like, pineapple?
Ah.
Is that what that is? Like, it was this bouquet of fruitiness that are not necessarily the ones that we would get. Traditional moge, you walk on by, you're gonna get that, that nice like red banana, like almost like a red apple sometimes. That we know to expect this. We know at which stage, how many days, what will show up. But this was a whole new experience where this new molasses that we've never had access to before, and now we're going through. And so every day that fermenter kept, the process kept going, and that transformation of that sugar to ethanol was a new discovery for us. And it kept going from there. The discovery started there. And as we moved to distillation, and we're working very closely, on those very first years, we really had one of the oldest tenured employees here at Montgay, Renault Blues. He was still working with us at that time. So it was very exciting for me because I wasn't master blender just yet, but the previous master blender knew he would never be the one to bring this to market. So this was really my very first project when I joined the Montgay team, and I think at that excitement alone, this person who has ran, I don't know, so many distillations on the pot that I can count. With me here, who is so excited about this very new product, and the whole thing was, like I said, like it was just excitement, discovery, all of those things. And I just kept discovering because as each harvest comes through the process, as each harvest goes to age, and we go back and we look and we understand like what's happening over time, it's still a brand new library of Montgay cuts and Montgay age rums that I'm still developing where single estate is concerned.
And how long was it before? So that was 2015, right? You said they acquired the estate, right?
hmm
So how long was it until you? I'll bring down the bottle. Till you had it in the bottle.
So the first release we had was in 2023.
That's a
And
while.
yeah, it was a while.
Yeah.
I like to call it one of the best worst kept secrets at Montgay because
Uh,
it was definitely like the worst kept secret if you visited, because we definitely are so excited to show you the estate. And if you happen to be here when it's happening, you kind of know. But like the best kept secret in that, it really was not something we spoke about. in any sort of like media coverage or, any seminars or master classes. We weren't ready yet. We weren't ready yet. So it was really, and that opportunity was amazing for the process team, for me to be able to get very familiar with this product before we even came to market, and we're able to explain what it is, how it came about. And in 2023, you're able to do the very first release. But for the first release, I really wanted it to be just like a own to Mount Gay. So we still did a blend. And, we chose to highlight the nuances of the 2016 and the 2017 harvest. Since then, we've done a second release in 2024. And this release is a vintage. It is a single harvest, the harvest of 2018. Quite a significant harvest as well, because this is the harvest where you heard me mention previously, that we have that know-how with our estate team, having the, an agronomist here with us, as well as the agricultural coordinator who has worked many, many decades in this industry. And they joined the team that year. So this was their first harvest as well. So now, we've gone from being able, and I mean, in 2 very short years, and that speaks a lot to how comfortable I was able to get with this process, and how comfortably we're able now to translate what we have done over the years to everyone, to be able to go from a blend, highlighting 2 harvests, really showcasing the uniqueness of having a molasses that was made specifically from the Montgay, estate, and then being able to showcase a vintage, just a snapshot of that specific year, and being able to bring that to everyone. So you'll see. I mean, you can tell I get really excited when I have to speak about single estate.
Sorry.
No.
Well, it is really exciting, but it's interesting because if one drinks Mount Gay and one knows Mount Gay's, I'm sure you have to literally everyone has seen a Mount Gay bottle. Anyone who drinks any liquid, I think, has seen what Mount Gay looks like, the bottle. But this looks completely different.
Completely
You would
different.
be walking down the street, you'd be in the liquor store, you would not really realize from just the first viewing that it's Mount Gay. And why the decision to go with like this bottle, something that really doesn't look like anything that you've done before.
We've released before. Yeah, because single estate isn't like anything we released before. I mean, it makes sense when you think about it from that way. But so, for many years, the specifics with how we treat the estate and the care and attention with regards to sustainability, like I said, choosing to practice regenerative agriculture, despite it being more labor intensive in terms of the persons you need, it being maybe sometimes look more financially aggressive, because there are certain things you cannot use that and you always choose what is better for the soil. When it came to designing the bottle, the team really wanted to encapsulate that mindset, that transparency that we have with regards to how we do everything we do for single estate. So to represent single estate, we chose a bottle is 70% recycled glass.
So everyone can see it.
Exactly, minimalistic in its labeling, but still very transparent. So single estate always will tell you what is in the bottle before you touch it. So if you get your hands on one, especially this one, you'll see there's a code at the front, which is it's the 2024 edition. It's 0 exactly. Then there is a 02 because it is the second release of single estate. And then it's a vintage 2018, so the VT18. And we did it in 2 separate distillations. Same molasses, just 2 distillations about 3 months apart. So D2. And what the team has done is they've also placed a QR code where you scan it, you literally can you can get all the information associated with the entire process of making single estate for that year. So, it's really funny when someone sits you down and they're like, tell me everything that happened 5 years ago.
You're like, just go here.
Exactly. And then they take all of that information after speaking to me, after speaking to, Kevin and the team at the SD, after speaking to the distillation, And it all goes there so that every single person can go on the journey of single estate. Because for us, single estate, it's an amazing product. It's nothing like we've done before. But what is key to us is that it's setting the stage for that transparency where rum is concerned. You talk the talk, but you walk the walk sometimes as well. And for me, Monkey, my ethos has always been, and the House of Monkey's ethos has always been, let's be transparent about how we do what we do. So, if I say to you, this has no sugar in it, or if I say, there's been nothing added, what you're tasting is 100% from the barrel, from our ability to select the specific barrels to give you these nuances, then that is what it is. And that was the mindset I took when it came to single estate. Every single aspect that has gone into single estate is clearly there for anyone to see.
And when you created them, were this is again probably an obvious question. How were you expecting people to drink it? To sip it and to add ice to it, to have it in your favorite cocktail? I mean, what were you thinking? Obviously, it's super special, so you wouldn't want to just throw a lot of sour mix into it. But what would you? How would you want someone to drink it?
So for single estate,
Yeah.
neat is always my recommendation.
Neat.
Neat. I like to say I make something for every occasion. So, if you want to make, a cocktail, we've definitely got rums for that too as well, because that's key, that everything has its purpose. So for single estate specifically, I would recommend it neat. But if you want to go the cocktail way, you can go from Eclipse being amazing in a rum punch to EXO, Cocoa Hill, that's my go-to sometimes when it comes to a cocktail. Very easy to make. And I don't claim to be an expert at crafting cocktails. I always say, I respect person who that is their talent and their ability to showcase what I have crafted in such a different way. I have complete, but there are some of them that are easy enough that even I can make them. And
Me too. I know. I always say, people are like, "Oh, you must make cocktails so well." I'm like, "No, I leave that to the professionals."
Exactly. I also leave that to the professionals and make very simple ones, like when you freeze coconut water and pour some XO over it. And I'm like, gorgeous. I've made this cocktail.
Yeah, that's really easy. Now, you've had the first, which was a blend, and then you've had the second. So you've got to tell me what's happening now. What's happening next?
So what's happening next? So definitely there will be a third. The idea here is, but I think, what, I'll give you this. What you will see from single estate is you will see us developing single estate, always staying true to the core, where the molasses comes from, transparency in the process, all of those things. But you will see some new things coming from single estate in the future. And because the idea here is to really build on what we have, what we know, and be able to bring everyone in a little more to the journey that we take for single estate. Can't give away too much, but
Okay.
definitely look out. We usually single estate is released around October. So we're very early in the year, before we get there. But yes, definitely keep looking out for the single estate releases. They're not very many. Every year we do only release approximately 4,000 and some bottle, because it's key for me that we're able to understand what is still happening with the rum as it ages and as that age progresses. So never truly depleting any harvest or any specific year, because we still have that journey to go on.
Yeah, I'm sure the magic is happening in those greenhouses with the cultivars.
Listening, like the magic, that's the beauty of single estate. The magic's happening everywhere. So we've got some magic happening at the estate. Every year is unique, every year is different. But then we've got all these different harvests that we've transformed into rum indie bond, also doing their thing, with tropical aging. So it's almost as if it's like this whole construct by itself that's really happening. And it's like I said, we went from that very first one having, a finite amount of barrels that we all like watching every day. We're like, what's happening? Is it happening? Are we good? To now, it being just so much a part of who we are and what we do, setting up the tastings, monitoring year on year, as we go by. But I will say this, like one thing has not changed. Like when it's harvest, the plate, everybody is super excited. Like so it's almost as if like like a special celebration has come to the Monge estate specifically, and also to the distillery.
Well, I was excited to try the molasses. I'm sure that is, every single time I'd be like, molasses, please. I do love it. And so, it's funny, I think the Barbados Tourism Board should just say the magic is happening in Mount Gay, and that should be, that is it.
I will say that, we do like we harvest. Mogi has their harvest, but it's part of a bigger celebration that happens in Barbados. So, we tend to harvest at the end of the country's harvest. Right about that time, we have a celebration called Crop Over, where, traditionally, obviously, many, many years ago, it was a celebration of the end of the harvest on the island, so Crop Over. But now it's really it's our carnival that just does coincide with the end of our Barbadian harvest, and the country does come alive. So it's we're a small part of that bigger excitement that happens every year around that time.
Well, gosh, I would love to be there. So October, Barbados, crop
No,
over.
October you come to Barbados, you come in August, July. Everything.
Okay, August, July. Sorry, you're right. This is when the new one comes out in October. Okay,
Exactly.
August, July. We are coming. We're coming.
Comes
Well, this has
Barbados.
been so great. I am so pleased that we got to talk about it, and so much
You.
exciting stuff is happening. I think the people who created Barbados. I think the people who created Mount Gay in 1703 would be super pleased by the fact that not only is it still around, but that you're
Yes.
at the helm creating all these new
Thank
things.
you. Thank
Oh,
you.
absolutely.
I'm
And
very honored.
thank you for being on the show. It's been fantastic.
It has been. Thank
Mhm.
you.
And hopefully see you in London soon for another conversation.